Welcome to Hola, Latinos News. Mayor Suarez, thanks a lot for being on a June cover, which is going to be amazing, and for giving us this interview about how are we going to return to the new normal in Miami. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. We call it Stand Up Miami, and that's our brand for returning Miami as close to whatever the new normal will be as possible.
Mayor, one of the worries and one of the questions is that we are a town full of tourism, as you may know, entertainment, restaurants. How would that work, and how are we going to get used to being socially distant until probably if they find a vaccine, but at the same time, be Miami again?
It's very difficult to predict what the future holds. What we do know is that next week we're going to be opening up restaurants. And we're hopeful that in the next 28 days, if the data continues to show a downward trend, then we'll be able to go into phase 2 and phase 3. And so the reopening will continue. And I think part of this is not only doing what's right and being disciplined, making sure that we're doing everything we need to do, but I think the other part of it is also people gaining confidence. And I think confidence is gained over time when you see that the results and the data demonstrate that the things that we're doing are working.
Mayor, you got a lot of compliments, I would say, because you were one of the few in Florida and maybe in the United States that started closing, I would say, with time. And that made Miami be at home before a lot of other people, even before the county. What have you learned as a mayor after this unprecedented pandemic?
I think I've learned a lot about myself, and I think I've learned a lot about what it takes to lead in a crisis like this. The first thing is I have to thank my commissioners who have rallied and supported me and have unified with me. I think that's incredibly important. Whenever you have disunity or disharmony of voices, it's very difficult. I've also learned that you have to go follow your instincts and make tough decisions and not worry about the consequences. People are going to criticize you, but if you make the right decision, they'll later on thank you for it. And that's what happened. You had the county criticizing us and all the stuff away, and then they had to follow us and do everything that we ended up doing.
What is going to be Miami during the summer? What do you foresee? We're already in the summer. They already said that we were going to have probably an intense hurricane season, which of course worries us. But at the end of the day, we are like our magazine, we're all Latinos, we are Miami. How do you think we're going to handle it?
The first thing is we just got news today that our beaches look like they're going to be open June 1st. And I think with that, we'll probably be opening the hotels as well. So I think little by little, we're starting to return back to a sense of normalcy. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. If, again, we continue to go on a downward trajectory, then I think people will get more and more confidence and they'll be able to have confidence they can come here safely. Obviously, flying in airports and flying in airplanes is something that people are also going to have confidence in. Our cruise industry is going to be one where you're going to have to, again, try to reestablish people's trust. So I think it's going to be a process, but I do think that if we continue to discipline ourselves, that we'll get to a point where we can be reasonably satisfied reasonably quickly.
We've already seen towns, for instance, the Keys, to where people want to go for tourism already. Are you working with the airport authority for the travel that could come into South Florida?
We're trying to do the very best that we can to accommodate and make sure that we're an accommodating place. I think, our air travel has been decimated just like so many industries. I mean, we normally have 50 million passengers flow through Miami International Airport. We're being told right now that it's operating at 10% capacity. So we're talking about 5 million people, which is still a lot of people, and it's double pretty much the population of Miami-Dade County. So we still have some concerns about, as we're coming out of this, where foreigners come from is important to us if they're coming from COVID hotspots. So that's something that we're monitoring as well.
Mayor, you just lived the whole experience because you were tested positive with COVID. How was the whole, I would say, spiritual part of you being at home, knowing that you are the authority of this city? What are your thoughts on that?
It was wild, very difficult to describe. From the moment that I got the news that I was positive, throughout my 18 days in quarantine, having to take care of myself, make sure
Were
that I
you
had food.
scared at some point?
There were a couple of moments where I was a little bit apprehensive because I was doing a video blog and I was being very transparent about the experience. And there was a couple of moments where it looked like my health was going to go in a very bad direction. And thankfully that didn't happen. But if it did, it would have been very, 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 very difficult.
How did you cope with your family? It was also hard because they weren't at home with you and you have little children.
It was very difficult. Now, it was probably the longest stretch of time that I've gone without actually seeing or touching my children. And that was extremely difficult to have a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. I'm sorry, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. And it was very difficult to be separated from them. It's not the same seeing them on, on FaceTime or whatever than it is seeing them, obviously in person. So when I got to see them and hug them for the first time, it's something that I'll never forget.
Especially your 6-year-old, I'm sure that when he saw you again in person, do you remember what he said?
Yeah, I remember he kept saying over and over again, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." So it was really special.
He understands us a little about the situation because at
He does.
6 he could.
Yeah, I think he does understand a little bit of it, and not fully, of course, but he definitely understood that I had COVID, that I was getting better. That's why he couldn't see me. And so he was happy that I was better, and he was happy that he was able to see me and touch me again.
We've had a lot of New Yorkers coming to Miami during the pandemic. We were looking at a map that the New York Times actually published, in where you could see all the people that were planning on just spending the pandemic here or maybe moving. How, as a mayor, do you receive all this type of immigration into a city? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, look, we've always been a city that's invited people to come from all over the world. That's part of our strength. At the same time, there are people coming from COVID-19 hotspots, and that is a concern. I know the governor has required New Yorkers to have a 14-day quarantine, and it's important that they follow those rules because we want to make sure that that they're healthy and that it's not going to be something that's going to create a second wave in our city.
Mayor, what would you tell everyone who looks at Miami as the international platform for Latin America? And now we're seeing all of Latin America closed. Most of the countries, for instance, Colombia, is not opening their airports until August 31st. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think we're going to recuperate from this?
It's going to be a process. I think, it's not just about governments. It's about everyone sort of gaining confidence again in our ability to do things that we kind of took for granted. Flying, I was flying all the time, being able to go to the beach, something that, you do every summer here in Miami. And for some people, they do it during the winter. Going to a basketball game or a baseball game or going to a soccer game, things that we enjoy. So, it's going to take some time for us to feel comfortable again doing those things. But I think we have to look at it from the other perspective too. We've got to spend more time with our families. Hopefully we reduce a little bit of the pace of life. And, what I want to make sure is that the people that are in the lower economic, status can be taken care of and to make sure that they're able to get back on their feet because they're the ones that are going to be suffering the most.
What's the measure that you think you did best and which one you wouldn't do again, if there's any?
So the best definitely was canceling all Trenca Ocho, without a doubt. Making those early decisions. There was hundreds of thousands of people coming, that would have come and congregated in the city. I think that was a very, very good decision. Worst, I don't know. It's funny. I haven't really thought about it to see, where could I have done better? I'm sure that when this is all over, I'll look back and think about it. I think when you're you kind of get tunnel vision when you're leading. Look, I wish I had a better relationship with the county. I think, unfortunately, other mayors feel similarly to myself, which is why the cities have kind of come together. That would be the preference because it'd be better if the county and the city were more in line. But those things happen, and I've made what I felt were the right decisions at the right time, and I have to be comfortable with that.
You are, and I need to ask you this, you are one of the few mayors in the country, Latino, and of course, this is for Hola, Latinos news, which is also seen in Mexico. We're seeing in the whole U.S. for U.S. Hispanics. What would you say as a Latino that if you could say anything, that you would feel proud about your people here in Miami during the stay-at-home order, if you do?
I'm proud of the way our citizens have listened to us, how disciplined they've been. You always have examples of people that are being irresponsible, but by and large, that's a small percentage of the people. And I think, we're a community, a family. And so having an opportunity to spend more time with your family, to be with your family, is something that is very much, rooted in our culture. And I think the other thing that's been great is to see the perseverance of faith, throughout all the obstacles and all the things that have been put in the way. So I think for me, family and faith are the two things that are really exciting to see in difficult times.
Mayor, how do you see yourself in the next, I would say, first 2 years that you have of being our mayor, and then afterwards?
Well, the first 2 years, I think were extremely successful. We had 8.5% growth the first year, 10.5% growth the second year. We had the lowest homicide rate the first and second year in about 50 years, and the second lowest tax rate in 50 years, the best bond rating in the history of the city. So I think when you put that all together, safest city, growing city, low tax city, that's a recipe for success. I think we have a lot of exciting challenges in the future, hopefully bring Major League Soccer to Miami, some projects that we want to complete, making sure Miami is the most resilient city on the planet, making sure that Miami is equitable. And those are things that we're going to work on. And I'm excited to continue to deal with those challenges as we run $1 billion government with 4,500 employees.
Mayor Suarez, thanks a lot for being here in Hola, Latinos.
Appreciate it.